In there. Okay, so today, our topic today that I'm really excited, I'm just going to take a little swig here of my hustle juice, which it is. Okay, so I, like many of you, I am very, very interested in doing all I can to be as healthy as I can now, but also as I get older, right? I mean, it's never too early, obviously, right? So if you're in your 20s or 30s, it is never too early. But once you get in the 50 zone, then you really start thinking about it. I mean, that's just nature, right? So anyways, you guys, you probably have Alzheimer's or dementia in your life in some way. I'm sure you know someone or you have relatives. Maybe you could just say in here if you guys have anything in your life like that. It's really hard. Both my grandparents on my mother's side, my grandfather had Alzheimer's and my grandma had dementia. And, it's just really hard when you see your family members going through that. And then of course, for ourselves, we don't want to go through that. And so I've just been doing, research. I read a lot and I look up a lot of things. And, there's a lot of things that I feel like I already do right in my life. I mean, I cut grains out a long time ago, and that's actually going to be a totally different topic that I'm going to do in a different week, talking about going off grains and why it is so important. And there is a real connection with that and Alzheimer's and dementia, but just even for amazing health, right? Getting off of grains. So I had already done that, and I felt really great about that decision. To help me in that way. But I just wanted to do more research, right? Just learning more about, I'm just going to get my little thing of notes here in case there's something I forget. Okay. So that I can do all that I can to prevent this. And I thought you guys might want some of this information too, because I've heard a few people talk about this in the group and how heartbreaking it is when you have someone in your life. And the message that I really want to talk about today is the prevention for sure, but also the reversal. And before I go any further, I just want to mention, for those of you that don't know, that I am not a doctor and I am not a health practitioner or even a dietitian, okay? I am just someone who is really passionate about natural health, and I really believe that we can live better lives and we can be healthier doing it naturally, and there's so many things that we can do. So getting on the ketogenic diet, okay, obviously that is super, super huge. And I'm going to show you right here. So this is the book that I'm talking about, and I will put the link. So don't worry, I will put it in lots of different places today, but this is the book, and I hope that you can read it. I hear people say sometimes they can't read it, but it's Amy Berger. And what I love about it is, see right here, her foreword by Dr. David Perlmutter. Okay, he's like my favorite natural health crush. Okay. I have crushed on him for so many years because he was my very first introduction to living a grain-free life. And I just soaked up his information like a sponge. He was on PBS a lot and I saw him on there, and he's just awesome. You can look him up. Dr. David Perlmutter, you can look him up on YouTube and stuff. And he's not like one of those, he's not out there like some of them, but his message is so great. Like I love him. But anyway, so he did the foreword. And so that really meant a lot to me because if he's going to do that, then I know this is a good quality book. So I got this book and I started reading it and not really knowing what to expect. I mean, she does say right on here, using a low carb, high fat diet to fight Alzheimer's disease, memory loss, and cognitive decline. So obviously that piqued my interest, but I wasn't sure, exactly what she was going to say, so I was interested, but not, I didn't know. And then I started to read it and I was just like, I really couldn't put it down. And look at all my little These are things I'm going to read to you guys today, because I'm going to read you some little parts, and then I'm going to really encourage you to get this book. I will put the link at the end so you can just click on it and you can just get it right on Amazon, because sometimes I see like fake people selling, like, do you ever notice there's something for sale on Amazon? It's like hugely expensive. Well, what you guys might not know as shoppers is that sometimes people will buy it and then they will sell it themselves. And so it's not actually from the real author. So I always like to give you the link so that you know for sure it's from the right one. Oh, Teresa, my mom, both my grandmothers, 4 aunties had Alzheimer's. It's my #1 reason to do keto. I'm 63, a mom of 3 daughters, got to be proactive. 100%, Teresa. That really touches me, because I've had it in my family too. And I know how hard it is to see people going through that. And you want better for them, and you want better for yourself, and you want better for your daughters and your family. So that's great. I'm so glad that you're interested in what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm just looking at my notes here really quickly. Okay. Alzheimer's and dementia, up until very recently, from what I've heard anyways, there has really been not a lot of information about how it happens. Why does this happen? Is it just kind of like this random thing that some person gets, and, gene markers and that kind of thing? And there is definitely a point to be made for, possibly running in the family or whatever. But the same could be said for people with diabetes. Like, I have diabetes and hypoglycemia in my family, and I don't have it because of the lifestyle changes that I have made. So that's not to say just because it's in your family, that means that you are for sure going to get it or anything. It does mean, however, that I think a person needs to be even more mindful of things that they could do differently. And Alzheimer's and dementia now, currently, is being called a metabolic syndrome issue. Okay, so these are the different terms that I'm seeing in what I've been researching. Doctors and scientists are calling it type 3 diabetes. Okay, that's one term. The other one is diabetes of the brain. And the last one is metabolic cognitive syndrome. Okay, so what do these all have in common? They all have, it's all to do with your metabolism. It's all to do with your insulin levels. That's the common theme. And I'm hearing it so much more now. And so I'm going to read to you just some little passages in here. And I'm sorry about the reading, but like she's going to say it so much better than I am. So right here, she says, a review of medical literature to date makes a strong case that Alzheimer's disease is largely a problem of brain fuel metabolism, meaning it results from a disturbance in the brain's capacity to generate energy. And if Alzheimer's disease is a metabolic problem, then the most promising avenue for addressing the root cause of the condition and reversing it is a metabolic strategy that restores energy utilization in the brain. Okay, so that, to me, that makes so much logical sense. How we eat makes such a difference in this problem. And people that have really high insulin, they're going to have way more of a problem. She says in here too, at its heart, Alzheimer's dementia is a fuel shortage in the brain. It is a result of the widespread starvation and death of neurons secondary to hyperinsulinemia. I don't even know what that word is. Excessive amounts of insulin is basically what that is. Insulin resistance and reduced capacity to metabolize glucose. So it all stems from that. Like that's just so powerful when you think about it, because we have 100% control over this. That's the thing that I just love about this. Okay, so I have written down different points, and then I'm going to read from the book. And I am sorry for reading from the book, but it just makes so much more sense if I read you the different passages that I've highlighted. And then you guys can get the book yourself and you can read it if this is interesting to you. Number 2. Okay. I put here, why is it taking so long to figure out? And then the answer is, there is also likely trepidation on the part of the medical community regarding such a high fat intake, particularly saturated fat, despite mounting evidence that saturated fat intake is not associated with increased risk for cardiovascular disease, and that reductions in dietary carbohydrate in fact, can improve multiple markers for heart disease. This wonderfully promising avenue for research in dietary therapy is being hindered by an outdated nutritional school of thought. And I will say in this book, and I'm not going to go very much into it here because that's not really our topic for today, but for those of you who are worried about your cholesterol in your heart, she has a full chapter in here. And we also have in one of the units, we have a unit in the group with all kinds of information. Please, please do your own homework. Don't just listen to your doctor when he wants to put you on statins. Please do your own homework, okay? But she has a full chapter in here on that. So I found that really interesting. Okay, so one of the leading researchers for Alzheimer's and dementia is Dr. Dale Bredesen. And he has a couple of quotes in here. Number 3. Let's see, number 3. Okay. So one of his, it says, Dale Bredesen, a researcher and physician at the forefront of this research, has developed an intervention that has yielded extremely promising results. It's a switch in diet that transitions the body from being fueled primarily by glucose to being fueled by fats and ketones. Okay, so that's really interesting. Says that some of his patients whose cognitive function was so severely impaired that they had to leave their professions are now back at work and leading normal lives. Okay, so now we're actually talking about reversal. Okay, we're not even just talking about prevention, which is huge, but we're talking about reversal. Okay, that's huge. I just got so excited when I read this. Dr. Bredesen hammers home the point that with the possible exception of damage caused by physical trauma to the head or the brain, cognitive impairment and dementia are metabolic problems. So that's what he says. He's a scientist and a doctor who specializes, and he's at the forefront of this research, and he says that it's a metabolic problem. That's really interesting. His actual quote is, Alzheimer's dementia is not a mysterious, untreatable brain disease. It is a reversible, metabolic, toxic, usually systemic illness with a relatively large window for treatment. That is a direct quote from him. Wow, I know it's a lot of reading, but you guys, I can't say enough how important it is to do this research for yourself. There's other books too. I know other people have talked. Maybe Teresa, you had one that you had talked about. I'm not sure if it was this one or a different one, but there's been a few books that I've seen in the group, but this one is really great because she talks about how a high-fat diet makes all the difference in the world, but other things that are also important. So it's sort of like she has sort of a three-pronged effect. Okay, so what's my next point? Many doctors believe that our body's preferred fuel should be fat and ketones. Yeah, okay. They believe that fat is the body's preferred fuel source and that fat and ketones are not the backup and that it should be running on most of the time. So that's the other thing that we hear sometimes in the keto world is that, you know, switching back and forth, but actually running on fat and ketones really is the preferred way. And many, many more keto doctors and people that you see on YouTube are starting to say that now. That I've noticed that a lot in the last couple of months, a lot more talk about that. Okay. Number 5, the importance of ketones. Okay. So she does a lot of talking here about the importance of ketones. And so I just want to make a little point of reference here that our group is a keto group. First and foremost, it's a keto group. There are a lot of people that just prefer to do low carb, and I don't want to exclude anybody in our group. And low carb is awesome too, like as far as what the alternative could be, right? But there is such mounting evidence about how important it is to be running on ketones, at least for a lot of the time. Like we do go in and out for sure naturally, but a lot of the time running on ketones. And that is where a healthy ketogenic diet really shines, because when you actually do it, and I'm going to say tracking, generally speaking, just to know for sure, you're going to get yourself into ketosis. And these are the benefits. The stuff that I'm talking about here is from being in ketosis. So here's some of the stuff that she reads, or Amy says about ketones. She says, we want to raise ketone levels because the core of this strategy is that ketones will feed the struggling neurons. Okay, the ketones are going to go up into the brain and do its repair work and give energy where it's needed. So that's really important. And then she says in here, the simplest and most cost-effective way to raise ketones in the body is by consuming MCTs. What I talk about all the time, especially if it's a high in C8. There we go. She's talking about that right there. MCTs are a special type of fat that is not digested and absorbed in the same way as other fats. Instead of going through the same route that fats take, like olive oil or sesame oil, in the body, MCTs are delivered directly to the liver, which converts them into ketones and releases them in the bloodstream where they can travel to other tissues and serve as fuel. Okay. She also says, the fascinating thing about the potential of MCT oils to improve cognitive function is that the ingestion of MCTs will elevate ketones regardless of insulin and blood glucose levels. Okay. Even if you know somebody in your life, I know we're keto, most of us, or at least low carb, but we have people in our lives that are struggling and we're wanting them to get better. You don't have to force them. Now, I will talk in here about how it's obviously the best thing to be on a ketogenic diet, but there are still huge valuable. It's still very valuable to use MCT oil, even if you're not eating that kind of a diet. It is still going to go to their brain and it's still going to help them with their cognitive function. So I just want to mention that for those of you who have people in your life and you're like, man, I can't get them to, go over to keto the way I am. And you feel like it's a bit of a push. Just push this. Just push MCT oil for now. And then maybe they'll come around. Okay. The second way to raise ketones, she says, is with exogenous ketones. Right? That's what this is. This is beta hydroxybutyrate. And that's exactly what she's talking about. And it's an exogenous ketones. So exogenous means from the outside. This is in contrast to when the body produces internally, either from taking MCT oil or from being really fat adapted with a very low carb diet. So from both. Think of exogenous ketones as a ketone supplement, which that's exactly what that is a ketone supplement. People with Alzheimer's and dementia show improved cognition with higher ketone levels, whether these are achieved via very low carb diet or ingestion of MCT oils and exogenous ketones. Okay. Now she says, well, it's later on, but she says that the absolute best thing that you can do is to eat a ketogenic diet and get your MCTs and take your BHBs. That's like a triple threat. Like that is the absolute best that you can do. But what I'm saying is if you have people in your life who are not going to eat in that way, at least see if you can get them to have those two things, because that's even going to help them. Let's see. Okay. So, okay, she says, so while so this was the part I was trying to ad lib because I didn't actually see it right here, so I'm going to read it. So while I absolutely believe raising ketones by any means possible can be helpful in the short term, the real benefit, the wham, bam, 1-2 punch, if you will, comes from a combination of carbohydrate reduction, increase in fat, liberal use of MCT products, and exogenous ketones. So right there, she says that is like the best thing that you can do. That's how I live my life anyway, just because I've always known the health benefits of these products, even apart from weight loss. Of course, as a bonus, it really helps us with our weight loss, but I have used them for quite a while for health reasons. And so when I read this, it's just, it makes you feel so good knowing that you're doing the right thing. And for those of, for us keto people, and we're hearing that this is what they're recommending, it makes us feel so good knowing that we are eating in the right way. And like I said before, if you guys tend to be more low carb and not as high fat, you may want to reconsider. I'm not saying that you have to blast your fat if you're not comfortable with that, but you may want to look at increasing your fat because there are definite health improvements from having a higher fat diet. Anyways, I just want to mention that because there's been quite a few people lately that have mentioned in the group, oh, you know what, I'm not keto, but I'm low carb. And like I said, I don't want to judge or anything, and you guys can do whatever you want, but I just want to point out that there are some really great health benefits to doing actual keto, an actual nutritional, healthy ketogenic diet. Okay. Now, number 7. What am I naming now? Number 7. Sorry, but I have to. That's odd. I lost a number. Well, that's okay. We're going to skip over to number 8. Okay, so then I made this point. The MCT oil and BHB are very important. Okay, but to be most effective, it's better to have it with ketogenic diet. Okay, got it. Number 8, cholesterol. So like I said, she has a full section in here on cholesterol, which is really interesting. I'm not worried about it whatsoever, but I know that there's people in the group that do worry about it. So you definitely want to read this section on cholesterol, really straighten some things out in your mind so that you can make the right decision on what's right for you. Julia, I see that you're here, and I know that we were just talking about this in the group the other day about statins. And I'm not going to say too much about it because I'm not a doctor, and you guys have to do what's right for you. But as Julia pointed out the other day in the group, she did her own research, and she decided on what was best for her, and she didn't let her doctor dictate what she felt was important for her. So I really encourage all of you guys to please do the same. That's all I'm saying. And if in the end you feel that, taking a drug like that or doing what they suggest is the right way, then you definitely do what's right for you. All I'm suggesting is please do your own research and don't just status quo it because the doctor said. That's all. Just please be your own best advocate for your health. Okay. Okay, so I'll read one little part about cholesterol. She says, cholesterol is one of the most crucial substances for building cells and tissues throughout the human body. And this part here is really powerful. If you or your loved one are taking a drug designed to prevent your body from making cholesterol, and you are combining it with a diet low in cholesterol foods, this creates the absolute worst possible nutritional environment for a struggling brain. So she does a full chapter on this, chapter 9. The whole thing is on cholesterol, so please read that yourself. But I thought that part was really powerful. The research says otherwise to what doctors have been telling us for a long time. So anyways, I'm not going to say any more about that. Mitochondria. Okay, you guys have probably heard the term mitochondria. I actually thought it was just to do with the gut, but it actually is so much more. So what the mitochondria is cell structures that are the powerhouses of energy factors for our cells. They are the sites where energy is produced. So it's really all over in your body. There's these little energy cells, and they control so much, and yet we don't really know that much about it. But here, one of the scientists that's quoted in the book says, accumulating evidence suggests that mitochondrial dysfunction is associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. Mitochondrial dysfunction and the resulting energy deficit, right? Energy deficit. And that goes back to what she said about getting the ketones up here to get the energy back. Anyway, sorry, sidebar. And the resulting energy deficit trigger the onset of neuronal. I can't even say it. Neuronal. Okay, well, I don't really know what that means because that's different than how they said it in the book. But anyways, degeneration and death. Okay, so the mitochondria is so important. And I think that's in a different section that she has in the book, but that's how she says, that's how we repair the mitochondria, is by eating a high fat, low carbohydrate diet. Okay, I need a drink. I normally just like blah, 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 but now when I'm reading stuff and it's like you have to get it just right or whatever, I feel like getting a little tongue tied here. Anyway, but that is part of what we do. Even when we do our bone broth cleansing and then we're eating a healthy ketogenic diet, we are healing our mitochondria. So we're already doing that. So that is really exciting, knowing that there's a lot that we're already doing in this aspect. Okay, so then she talks a little bit more specifically about MCT oil as it relates to Alzheimer's and dementia. She says MCTs can serve as a source of ketones even in the absence of carbohydrate restriction. However, even though these oils can elevate ketone levels in the presence of carbohydrates, the real benefit, okay, so I already talked about this, is combining it with a ketogenic diet. Consume MCT oils liberally liberally, but do so while also restricting carbohydrates. And then she says foods rich in MCT should be consumed in addition to, not instead of, carbohydrate restriction. So, I mean, obviously she's recommending to do both, but like she said before, even if you have someone in your life that you can't get to eat a ketogenic diet, at least get them to have the oils and hopefully the BHB too. Give it to them both. Okay. She talks also another really, really powerful thing that we can do to help with this problem, is fasting and intermittent fasting, which is something that we talk about a lot in the group. Unit 6, I have a whole unit on that if you want to look it up. And coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be leading the group in an intermittent fast that week so that you guys can try it if you've never tried it before. But definitely go in Unit 6 and read about it. But anyways, she talks about the importance of fasting and intermittent fasting go hand in hand when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia. So she talks about that it increases numbers of newly generated neural cells in the adult brain, suggesting that these behavioral modifications can increase the brain's capacity for self-repair. So we talk in the group a lot about autophagy, about healing cellular damage basically that we have in our body. And when we fast, it's kind of like a little Pac-Man going in and eating up all the things that are broken down that can turn itself into disease and turn itself into cancer, and it can go into the brain. And we don't want all that in our body, so that when we fast, that's when autophagy happens. And that's what she's talking about here, is that the neurons in our brain are actually getting repaired when we fast. That is incredible. I think that is just so powerful. So she talks about here about autophagy, which basically means self-eating. It's the body's way of reusing, recycling, and generally tidying up. The self-eating part describes what happens inside the tissues when the body no longer has to prioritize the task of digestion. So then when it doesn't have to work on digestion, it can work on everything else. And that's why, again, coming back to MCT oil, it doesn't go through the digestion. So you don't have to even worry about that, when you're fasting. And that's a whole other topic, but that's why I now include that when I'm fasting. I still have it because of all the health benefits, and it makes me feel great. And I know it's not interrupting the digestion process, and I'm still getting all the autophagy benefits. Another thing that she talks about in here too, and it's another great way to help with Alzheimer's and dementia prevention and et cetera, is exercise. Rigorous exercise, I'm sorry to say, for me. I don't love it, but she specifically talks about exercising when you are fasted. That is particularly powerful. I know there's lots of people in the group that do that. From a weight loss perspective, it's fantastic when you can exercise fasted. But now from a brain perspective, it looks like there's really good reasons to do that. And what does that look like? It doesn't mean that you have to do like a 3-day fast or anything before you can exercise. It means that if possible, say you get up in the morning, you've already fasted all night. So if it's possible to exercise first thing in the morning or sometime in the morning before you've eaten, and again, not including fat or your fatty coffee, if that's all you're having, if you're not having anything in your fatty coffee that goes through digestion, like dairy, then you can still have that you can have. But if you exercise before your digestion kicks in, then apparently that is even more powerful. So that's really exciting. And also, like I said, from a fat loss perspective, it's really good. So there's sort of like 2 good reasons to exercise on an empty stomach. She says you can have your coffee or tea beforehand and add your MCT oil to it, and you'll be a quote unquote ketone fueled beast. That's what she says. So yeah, if you've been holding off on having your fatty coffee before you have your workout, then don't hold back, have it. Okay, let's see. Autophagy, did that. And then, okay. So I'm going to come to the conclusion here, and then we can just kind of chat about it a little bit, and I'll read back some of the things that you've said. She said, there is no one so far gone that their brain health should be considered a lost cause. And that's something that I really want you guys to think about who have people in their lives that have this, is that it's not game over. there are still things that can be done. The human body constantly surprises us with feats we didn't know it was capable of, and nowhere is this more true than in the brain. The use of low carbohydrate and ketogenic diets for Alzheimer's disease is a small but growing field. Scientific studies employing ketogenic diets, MCTs, and exogenous ketones, and the lifestyle strategies that we discuss, which she talks about in the book, like all exercise, is showing huge, remarkable progress. Like, it's really exciting, and we're not hearing all of it yet, because you know how it goes, like when it comes to the medical system, in order for things to become really mainstream, they have to have so much data behind it. And then we have things against us, like just a lot of old data that we've heard over and over, and a lot of people in the medical community are pushing up against it, and they're fighting against it. And so we're hearing it from people like Amy, you know, and Dr. Perlmutter, and so many other great doctors and health practitioners that believe in this, that are getting us the information so that we can decide what's right for us. And I kind of, you know what I say when I look at things like this, I think, is what most people are doing, like, is that working for us? No, I don't think it is. And I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking outside the box. I think, to me, it makes way more sense than just following the status quo and hoping for the best. Myself, I'd rather be proactive. Anyway, sorry, going off a tangent. But she says, Alzheimer's disease is a metabolic condition. Strict carbohydrate reduction and lowering of insulin levels is the most logical and scientifically sound method to delay and possibly reverse the signs of this condition. And as we heard from Dr. Bredinson, I mean, she has to be careful what she says, right? But he is a key researcher, and he actually says that in his clinic, he is seeing reversal. Okay, that was a quote from him. So reverse the signs of the condition, particularly when compared to medications that are proven to be as ineffective as they are expensive. Her goal in writing this book was to tell you this: you are not powerless in this battle. There is something that you can do. There are many things that you can do, and there is hope. And for those of us that have people in our lives, that's what we need. Like, we need hope. And this book gives so much valuable information. And I just wanted to talk to you guys about this because it means so much to a lot of us that have people in our lives, or have had people. My grandparents have passed. And but for ourselves too, right? And that was one message that I really, really want to talk about, is that we need to do this for ourselves. And I've said this so many times, that keto isn't just for weight loss. There are so many health benefits. And I think sometimes people really get wrapped up in everything about being about the scale and being about weight and everything. And really, there's so much more to it. I honestly look at weight loss as the bonus. I really, really do. I look at improving my health in so many different ways as my number one. And then the weight loss, as it comes off, it comes off. That's just awesome. I mean, it's really, really great. But this is what we should be thinking about. And there are things that we can do right now to help us for the future. And many of us are doing a lot of these things right now. So I feel super, super hopeful, and I love the message that she gives. And I am going to put the link to this book in here for sure, because I really want you guys. Yes, Julia, she does differentiate between LDL and HDL. And like, I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not even going to address that. But in that full chapter, she definitely goes over that. And she talks about the fallacies that we've heard our whole lives, and what the real truth is. And actually, there's another book, I should put this one into, called Cholesterol Clarity by Jimmy Moore. That's another really great book on cholesterol and what does it really mean, and how it relates to keto too. That's another really good book. So I will put that in. I'm going to make some notes for myself so that I don't forget to pop in the group after. So I do that sometimes. If I forget to put something in here that I said I was going to put in, can you please remind me, tag me and say, what was the link to such and such? Just tag me, because I might forget something, but hopefully I won't. Okay, so I'm going to go back and see if anybody said anything or asked anything, and I'll quickly read it. Bonnie, in reference to the new BHB, no, there will be no mango in the new one. It's going to be something in the berry category. That's all I'm going to say. And it's super good, and there will not be any mango. So yeah. Okay, so Teresa, looks like Teresa has this book and she says it's a must buy. So she obviously has this book, and that's awesome. And Dr. Perlmutter too. I don't have it here, but Grain Brain is his book. And it is it is honestly, it is one of my, it's so ear dogged. I can't even tell you, because I've read it so many times. So that book is really good. And I will say too, Dr. David Harper, who I've interviewed in this group before, BioDiet. His book is fantastic. And the reason why I love his book is because it is from a healthy ketogenic standpoint. He does talk a little bit about weight loss, but there's so many books out there that really focus on keto for weight loss and not really about the health. And that's why an actual ketogenic diet, right, where we have the right macros, that is going to get us where we want to be for our health and for our weight loss. So I love Dr. Harper's book too. So I'll put the link to that also in here. I love books, right? I'm a book hoarder. I love books. I love paper books. I have electronic books too, because when I travel, it's a little bit easier. So my faves I have electronically, but there's nothing to me like paper books. Actually, I have like a library kind of set up, and I read in there, and it's just, yeah, whatever. I'm kind of weird, but I just love to read paper books, and I try to read often. Okay, Julia, and great, you're writing it down, and I will put in here the links to all the books that I talked about, just to make it easier for you guys, and to know that you're buying from the right author, okay? Because it really bothers me when I go on Amazon and I see some shyster trying to sell something, and it's not even his, and it's overpriced and whatever. And so I will give you the links to the actual authors of things that we talked about. Anyways, okay, so that's it for my topic today. And I'm sorry it was so long-winded. This was kind of a long one, but it was something that I've been really wanting to talk about for a long time, and we can certainly keep the conversation going in here today. But I just think that there is something so powerful about being proactive in your health, and to do the things that make a difference in your life, and knowing that the way that you're eating is making a difference, and what you're not eating is making a difference, and doing your own research so that you can do what's right for you. So anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you look into this book, and I'll give you the links, and we can definitely do more discussion on it in the group. Maybe I'll set up a unit specifically on brain health, because I think it is that powerful. So I think I should probably do that. Anyways, you guys, have a super day, and I'm really excited to go get my fatty coffee now. So I enjoyed my black coffee, but my fatty coffee is gonna get me where I want to go today and be super energetic. So you guys have an awesome day, and I will talk to you in the group. Okay, bye guys. Have a great day. Hey guys, before you go, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification so you can be notified every time we have a new video posted. Also, down in the description, I will have links to everything that we talked about in our chat today, including information on how you can join my Intentionally Bare Keto support group. See you next time.